Hi friends, my name is Pej. I'm an interventionist. I'm also a recovery coach. I help a lot of people with alcoholism, with drug addiction, or mental health get the life that they need and deserve to have. I'm all about sobriety. My topic today is does relapse have to be a part of recovery? Often you'll hear in a lot of recovery circles that relapse is a part of my story. And yes, for some people, relapse is a part of their story. Something has happened to where they've come into the path of recovery due to whatever that happened to them, some kind of crisis situation. Then they stayed sober for a while, and then they ended up relapsing. And what does relapsing mean? It means that when somebody's completely abstinent from all mind-altering substances and they stay sober for a while, they then go back and they use or drink sometimes their drug of choice, sometimes other types of substances, but they end up having a relapse. They lapse in their recovery process. So do I think that relapse has to be a part of recovery? I believe that everybody has their own path when it comes to recovery. I see a lot of people that do come into recovery or have come into recovery several different times throughout their lives, and then they always end up relapsing. And some of them are, there are some of them that seem like they are beyond human aid and they may never get better. I believe everybody can get better, most definitely. I believe that a lot of times people do not work through certain things that's going on with their lives. Yes, a lot of people love to use drugs because drugs make them feel good, or they love to drink alcohol because alcohol makes them feel good. But it's also a coping mechanism. And a lot of times it's being done because people want to block out certain things that they don't want to think about, certain types of traumas perhaps, certain life situations that happen, familial issues, spouse issues, problems with your spouse, arguments, things like that. Sometimes people will drink over situations. Sometimes people will drink at people or use at people. But it's amazing to me because I've been sober myself for 16 and a half years, and I myself attempted to get sober a few times throughout my life, but that was due to the courts and many different types of issues that I caused myself as a result of getting in trouble from my addiction. None of those times that I actually got sober were times when I told myself I want to do this 100%. I actually was just doing it to fulfill the needs of the judge or the attorney or certain family members that thought that I should get sober, but I never actually wanted to get sober for myself. So when I did get sober for myself, it was because I had that spiritual bottom and I decided to get sober 100%. I knew that there was going to be a lot of work to do, and even while I was doing the work, I still had a reservation in the back of my head. Now, if I'd have fed that reservation, which I was for a little while, through and through, I wouldn't have stayed sober. I needed to actually identify what that reservation was, which was tucked way in the back of my head, and I needed to put it out on the table and make sure that I made a conscious decision within myself to stop 100%, but what am I going to do to stay stopped? So the work that needed to be done was definitely therapeutic in a clinical setting with clinicians, with psychologists. That was a plus, but that wasn't going to keep me sober either. I also got involved in the 12-step community, and I went through the process of the steps. Throughout my recovery, I did make a decision in my first year that I'm here to stay. Like I don't want to go back out. Now, do I see a lot of people do that? Sometimes. I see some people that actually come in the path of recovery, they realize they've got nothing else going for them, so they need to stay sober 100%, and they'll do whatever it takes. They'll go above and beyond. They'll go to any lengths to be able to stay sober. But sometimes, you see people, they actually appear to be doing good, but sometimes something's missing in their lives. Sometimes people they have depression that's untreated, like they don't like maybe they're on medications for their depression, but they haven't really delved super deep to see where the depression stems from and how to try to overcome it. I do believe, and I can speak on this because I'm a person who experienced massive amounts of depression, I do believe we can get over most, if not all, of the depression that we encounter in our lives, as long as we really, really dig deep and try to pull it from the root. That can happen in clinical settings. That can happen in 12-step rooms. That can happen, in church, depending on how you want to take on your recovery and how important it becomes for you. But also another thing that I think a lot of people fail to do is that they forget the magnitude of what happens when they are in their addiction or in their alcoholism and the things that they cause. The crying children, the wives or the husbands who are at their wits' end because they don't know how to be able to help their loved one, the sons, the daughters, the people that have overdosed countless times. This is a very big deal. Like when you are doing things, wreaking havoc and terror and just living a really reckless life in your addiction, I would hope that when you do get sober, you can actually not forget where you came from and remember how bad it actually was. Ending up in jails and in institutions, prisons, near-death experiences, homelessness, if you've been involved in any of that in your life and then you get sober, remember how bad it was so that you can actually embrace how good this can be. And why is it that people come and they clean up and they have these big, beautiful lives, or they start to get these big, beautiful lives, but then they decide to go test the waters yet one more time? It could be a number of things. I mean, I was talking to my colleague earlier about this. I believe a lot of times it's unresolved issues. There are underlying traumas or situations that some people do not want to look at, or that even when they do try to look at it, they suddenly turn their back on it really fast and they don't want to actually address the issue and overcome it to be able to get on the other side of it. And then there's some people that just don't want to look at their issues at all. Then there's some people that conduct themselves in certain types of behaviors in recovery which are not conducive to their recovery, sometimes not conducive to other people's recovery, and due to their behaviors, it starts to build up. Little small white lies become big lies and bigger lies, and then you're covering up lies for other lies, and you're kind of living a double or triple life in recovery, and that happens a lot. Sometimes in certain recovery circles, we say we are not the bedrock for mental health. We get a lot of people that come in with a lot of disorders, a lot of mental disorders, a lot of alcoholism, severe alcoholism, a lot of addiction, severe addiction. So you can't expect people to just come and get well really fast. Sometimes it's a long process for a person to be able to go through that process and really tap into their true inner self and really identify their character traits and really want to change. And so that is why I get so involved in the recovery community, because I have a lot of people that come that I meet and I get to work with, and they're still caught up in the facade. They come from the facade style of living, then they come into recovery and they still are caught up in the facade because that's all they knew. So when they come and they clean up, after a while, you will see they will start to behave certain ways. They will become ungrateful. They might have not have an attitude of gratitude, and then suddenly something happens, and a lot of them will relapse a lot of times. And so why is that? Perhaps they're not just ready to get honest with their innermost self and really make a decision to go 100% and live a life of integrity and dignity and do what's right. The miracles that I do see are people that sometimes they'll be coaching clients or people that will find me in the recovery community. And if I'm working with them hand in hand, or sometimes I know somebody else that's very serious about the recovery, working with them hand in hand, I get to watch the miracles. I get to watch the transformations. I get to watch people become the best versions of themselves. They go above and beyond to change their ways, the way that they are. They become family women, family men. They're involved in their family, they're involved in their community, they're of service to other people, and they have no reason to go drink and use. And I believe that service is definitely essential when it comes to recovery. When you're in service of others, you think about yourself a lot more, or a lot less. So with that said, if you're struggling in recovery, I get a lot of phone calls, a lot of texts, a lot of messages from people who are newly sober. They have sometimes 50 days, 100 days, 150 days, but they're telling me that they feel like they're going to use, or they don't know what to do. They're thinking about drugs every single day. So it's my duty to be able to talk to them and try to plug them into a recovery community. Try to build a support system for them. Try to introduce them to friends in their local area. People find me from across the country. They find me from around the world. I may not know people in their town, but I'll go above and beyond and try to help them find those people, just so that they feel safe. And even if they can't find people in their own respective town because there's just not a large recovery community, we've got the internet, we've got Zoom, we've got meetings, we've got all of that. So if you're struggling in recovery and you're in relapse mode, or you're a chronic relapser, as some would label you, or you just have relapsed a lot of times and you want to change your life completely, you can always call me at 310-596-9356. My name is Pat.